Good morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about light. The thing that really interests me about light is that it's a physiological force in our life. I think that often the way that light is taught is that it's something that is controlled by engineering side of architecture or the engineering side of the construction industry. And I think that sells the power of light short, because actually what light does is that it can control our memories or shape our memories. It can shape the way that we relate to the people around us, and it can shape the way we feel about ourselves. So actually light has a very strong physiological effect, and it affects both the mind and the body. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight, this morning. So we've been lucky enough to work in lots of cultures around the world. And so this talk is not just based on my culture, it's based on things I've observed in my work, and mostly in Asia, but also in the Western world. I mentioned to you about the power of light. So as you can see from this image, this is my alarm clock. So you can see that I'm a light tragic. It wakes me up in the morning with blue light, and it puts me to sleep in the evening with red light. So even just at a physical level, light can alter the way that our minds work. It either suppresses serotonin or helps the production of serotonin, which puts us to sleep or alters our moods. Next slide, please. And so with light, we can also not only control our minds, but we can use light to control what we see in terms of spatial effects. And that's where I come from. I'm an architect, I'm trained as an architect. So if I had to put a label on myself, I'd call myself a lighting architect. I think that light has, obviously has a very strong way in terms of shaping space and how we understand space. And this is where I started my career, and I probably guess that most of you are starting your career in this place as well. But on the next slide, you'll start to see that light can also be used to control the way that people behave. It's not just a spatial thing, it's also helps people relate to the environment around them as well as to themselves, as I said before. This is an exhibition in London. And the wonderful thing I think about this is by projecting the sun, it's inside a big powerhouse, projecting the sun on the internal wall of a surface of a building. It's not out, it's nowhere, no natural light coming in. People are sunbathing on the floor. Right? So you can see that light is creating some sort of connection with memory or feeling that they have, and you know, that's really what I'm trying to explain about a physiological connection. Light interacts with all the things in nature around us. And light also can create memories, can create thoughts of things that have passed or maybe of things that will come. So, I guess to sum up my introduction to you, the thing that I'm trying to say is that we are engaged to our environment around us, we meet the environment around us, we feel the things around us through light, and that happens as a feeling in the brain, but also in the spirit side of you. So it's a balance, right? Always there's a balance of things. Predominantly how we see our environment or sense our environment is through sight. So that's why actually the understanding of light should always start with the understanding of the eye, because it is through our sense of sight that we gain most of our understanding of the world around us. I think, and I may be wrong here, but I think it's around about 60% of all the things that we gather, all the stimuli that we gather, all the things around us that we gather in the world comes through our sense of sight. And then of course there's other senses, but predominantly it's the sense of sight. So how light is understood by our eye and there is translated to our brain is really quite important about how we understand light. So that connection of light coming into our brain makes us generate other things, right? Makes us understand objects and therefore allows us to think of other things. If you look at this, your mouth starts watering because it's delicious. So you make a connection between what you see, goes to your brain, and then it creates another stimulus inside your body or another effect inside your body. If you look at this, we know what smell is coming from that. If we look at the next one, we know what sound is coming from that. And we know what this feels like. So you can see that our sense of smell is very important and it tells us stories. Our sense of sight and the way that light, how we perceive light starts to tell us stories, and that's where we come in. We can take light to tell stories to people, and that's what lighting design I think is all about. So you can see, now these are some shots of our work, so you can see the sorts of stories that we might be able to tell people. I'm sure you can understand what this environment's about. It's fun, right? And people, when you go there, you've got an expectation about things that might happen. Same with this, it's a completely different feeling, but it creates an expectation of what you might feel about the space. You might start to understand where you are in terms of the detailing of the objects that are lit. And even this creates something that's important to us and gives us memories. So you can see how light becomes very important about the way that we perceive, the memories that it might bring back, and therefore the expectations we have about all the spaces that we light. So this is what I understand our role to be, is to make connections between humans and their environment, between humans and humans, and between ourselves, between us and ourselves inside. So there's a light can have an external effect, but it also can create the way that you feel inside.